This is Johnny with Tigerbomb MMA, and today I'm going to go over UFC Noche, Lopes versus Silva pretty quickly. I got a bit of a chest cold, so I'm not going to waste much time. Just going to give you my quick thoughts on this. With first fight of the night, we've got the tough welterweight finale. I am liking Donchenko here against Rodrigo, whatever the fuck his last name is. I wanted to fade Donchenko, but after kind of doing more extensive tape on him, I think he's got the goods. He's got a good striking base, good Muay Thai, trains out of Tiger Muay Thai out in Thailand. And the real deal kicker for me is that he seems to have the necessary explosivity and takedown defense and even get up game. So I'm going with him by knockout in the second round. Um, Rodrigo's not bad, but kind of relies a little too heavily on the wrestling. And I think on the feet, if it becomes a striking matchup because he's forced to strike, his striking's kind of rudimentary. It kind of reminds me of like pre-championship Usman, if you will. So give me Donchenko round number two. Next bout, I'm going with the fade here on Pereira. Um, Basically, if you watch any tape on her, I saw one of her fights where she's fighting nobody's questionable record with at least two of her previous opponents having like ridiculously fraudulent kind of records. And I don't know really much about her. She's apparently supposed to be the striking little phenom at 19. Like Rendon is not a good fighter, but what she is a legitimate fighter and has fought legitimate competition. Despite the fact that I think she sucks, give me the plus money on Rendon. At least I know she can get some top control. And if Pereira wants to maybe go back to her like grappling ways, and what I mean by that is that most of the girls I saw her fight, she went into the clinch and tried to take them down. Again, I don't know much about Pereira, but from what I saw, I don't like. I like the titties on Rendon. Give me her by a decision, maybe a finish late. Next bout, Costa versus Alden Correa. I wasn't too impressed by Correa. You know, he's a serviceable guy, and I think they're just kind of trying to pad the card with legit Mexican type fighters. I don't really. I'm pretty sure he's Mexican, but I don't know. It's gonna be in Texas. They'll accept whoever. They might even go with Costa because he actually trains with like Diego Lopes and Team Lobo out with Alexa Grasso and those beautiful feet. Give me Costa here. I think he's just going to be better everywhere. I think with his size, his ability, he's going to calf kick the shit out of those legs, eventually get a takedown and get a submission in round number two. I'm going to say by rear naked choke. Next bout, Zachary Reese versus Dumas. Put it simple. I'm not going to mince any more words. Give me Dumas. I'm sorry, Reese here to win in the first round, probably knockout. Dumas really needs this win. He needs to pay some legal fees. And Zach is not a guy I want to, hang my hat on. Like, I think he's capable. And when I say this, I don't mean it like he'll be champion, but I think he's capable of finishing anybody in this division at middleweight. It's just that he needs that. That's the only way he can win a fight, essentially, is by trying to finish them. I think he has the goods to do so, like early explosive knockout power and then the submission ability. But after that, he does tend to slow down. Dumas has a chance here. I think he's a decent dog, but what is he going to do? Is he going to come out here and try to fight for the last, possible paycheck he's going to get? Is he trying to come out here and try to win a performance bonus to pay off his legal fees? And I'm not trying to shit on him. Like, he probably deserves it, but I don't have much faith in him. Like, even with his new game plan of maybe trying to grapple, that's going to play right into the hands of Reese. He's not going to be able, I don't believe, to withstand the guard of Reese if it does hit the mat. So give me Reese knockout early. I expect Dumas to come in hot like a dumbass and maybe get finished. I don't think he has that kind of knockout power. He's been kind of getting by with his athleticism, and I don't think it's going to work here. Next bout, Jesus Aguilar versus Luis Garule. I wanted to fade Garule, but I'm not going to lie. He's pretty solid. I think there are issues with him that not only did we see it in his last fight, I think if he gets tested, he will definitely, fold. He got tested by Ode Osborne, and the thing about Ode's a tough out for anybody, anytime, anywhere, as we just saw with his last fight. But I think Garuli showed that he has the skills. I don't know about the mentality. I just, in previous fights, like with Jacob Silva, he got tagged pretty bad. And if you know anything about Jacob Silva, he's not UFC caliber. He almost made it a few times, but he's been getting run through by lesser competition, like a JP Buys even. And for Aguilar, what he doesn't have in like overall skill, he makes up with heart and just pure dog in him. So I like Jesus a lot. I think he can beat a lot of people just with that. Like, oh yeah, you think you're gonna beat me? But I think Garule, if he plays his cards right, he can win this fight pretty easily. Just being the better striker, I think he's got the goods. I really do. I think he's got good striking, good movement, good cardio, good wrestling. But he might be missing that bit of, I guess, I don't want to say toughness, but when the going gets tough, I kind of suspect he'll get going, and that's not what Jesus will do. So kind of a skip for me, but give me Garule by decision. Next bout, Tatiana Suarez. If she gets a win here against Lemos, she's right in there for another title shot. So I expect her to come out here and get a submission or a finish to show that dominance early. Amanda is up there in age. We've seen her get dominated by Weili Zhang on the mat, and I expect that to happen here. Give me Suarez to get back on track. The only way I don't see her getting a finish, despite her being a pretty significant favorite, is if she is just mentally broken from that fight with Weili Zhang. With her boyfriend Apache Mix also coming off of a really bad performance. I'm curious to see how they're going to perform, but give me Tatiana. I think a dominant win here gets people talking again. They will forget the previous performance and start talking about this one. Next bout, Claudio Boyes versus Joaquim Silva. Realistically, I can't ever pick Prince of Puto over here. Claudio Boyes, like I don't know about him. Like he's had significant enough time to make the proper adjustments. Like if we're looking at him without any real critiques, only positives, good leg lock game, good jiu-jitsu, pretty good wrestling, pretty tall for the division, like 5'10", good high kicks. Like he's athletic, but that, again, like a Garuli, going gets tough. This guy will flop, and it's one of those things that you kind of see in people that they might have a little bit of that bitch in them, but you can't prove it, and then it finally gets proven, and now everyone's talking about it. I think he's athletic, and I think he might be catching Silva at the right time. Like he's getting a bit older at the weight class, but he still has pop in his punches. He's still solid. And if I'm remembering correctly, a really good laser of a left hand for Neto BJJ. If it comes down to it, and it comes down to the last round, who do I think is going to have more in the tank and more dog in him? I think it's going to be Silva. For that reason, give me Silva by a decision. I'm not counting out Boyes, but again, Prince of Puto is not for me. Next bout, Jose Medina versus Dusko Todorovic. Like, this is very simple for me. Dusko has to finish this guy in the first round to keep his job. If he goes to a decision with Medina, I am more inclined to think that the UFC would keep Medina over Todorovic. Like, it's getting to the point that I'm tired of Todorovic. Like, either put up or shut up. You are the better fighter at this point, but he's got what I like to call that Serbian chin. If it gets cracked just right, it's not going to be good for Dusko. But realistically, Medina, all he does is just be an encouraging punching bag. You'll beat the crap out of him, and he'll tell you, hey, hit me harder. I still have more life in me. You can still beat me a little bit more. And if Jose decides to just come out here and try to knock out Dusko, he might have some success. So I do think he's a pretty live dog, but that's only if Dusko can't get a finish or a stoppage. Ultimately, Dusko needs this win. Take him down, submit him, and let's move on. Next bout, Santiago Luna, Border Boy versus Quang Lee. I did some significant research on Santiago Luna, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. I like his backstory. Border Boy legitimately, parents got deported. He would then still go to the United States for high school, joined the wrestling team, and then when he moved back to Tijuana, Mexico, he actually, if I remember correctly, was a part of the Mexican national wrestling team. And you can tell, like, just watching the tape on him, it intrigued me to try to find out more about his wrestling background. And very legit. And I'll talk a bit more about him more than Quang, because we kind of know about Quang and his backstory. Like, he's solid. He's a very good UFC vet at this point. And Santiago's a very young guy, and he's plus money. What I'm liking about him is that he kind of reminds me of a very young, maybe a little bit more polished for MMA version of Aaron Pico. And what's funny is in one of his amateur bouts, just similar to Aaron Pico's last fight, he gets spinning back elbowed as he's moving forward, trying to take a dude down, putting on that pressure, but he ends up surviving it. And he showed some toughness in that fight. He came back and just dominated round number 3 using that wrestling. And I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. It's just he is a very young kid, and he's not really been truly battle tested. Other than that, though, I'm liking everything about him. I think he's worth a shot at the plus money. But realistically, man, I do favor Quang Lee here, at least to a minus 150. If the odds end up shifting, I do think that Quang, with his background, decent striker, good power, and he trains with Sexy Mexi, whose name escapes me, his real name, Castaneda. I like his back takes. He's got very solid back take ability. Well-rounded guy. Nothing wrong with him, but I think Luna does actually match up well with him at this age. And if he can get over this hump of Quang Lee and beat him, Luna's boxing's not too bad. He has some decent power, but it's still developing. It just worries me that if I do have money on him, I have to know what I'm getting into. It's like, this is a young kid, but if he performs to his level, to where he's at right now, I think he can win. Then as he gets older, I expect better things from him, but he might up in the he might up excuse me, he might end up being a bust. But I'm willing to take that shot on him. So give me Luna. I'm going to say by decision. I think he's got the ability to finish this fight. Maybe not so with the jiu-jitsu, but with the boxing. He's been landing some nice shots inside the pocket that I was really a fan of. Next bout, Hernandez versus Ferreira. This one, I'm hesitant on Hernandez. Like, we know all about this guy. Just him coming off of a pretty good victory over Chase Hooper doesn't really mean too much to me. I do think Pereira can actually implement the game plan that Hooper should have. And if I'm being honest, in that last fight with Hooper, I think he was winning round number 1. I think he got a bit worried that he might have been optically losing the round, despite, Hernandez wasn't landing cleanly. He was landing on the shoulders. And I can just sense the urgency to try to swing the round back in his favor, which he didn't need to do. And then he cut the distance for Hernandez and he got caught. Ferreira's not going to do that. He is a vet. And we know what Hernandez's biggest weakness is, and that is the second round and above. So give me Ferreira to eventually chip away, low calf kicks, kicks to the body, punches to the body. And Hernandez, just because he got a vicious knockout, I don't expect him to come out here and just knock out Ferreira early on. Ferreira's tough. I know he's up there in age, but he's still showing he's got enough skill and gas left in the tank. Give me Ferreira round number 2 or 3 TKO. Next bout, Gastelum versus Stoltzfus. I was leaning Stoltzfus because I don't look. I'm guilty of calling him a bunch of horrible things, but the guy he's trying really hard. The way I had a whole joke written about, although Kelvin might physically be the hungrier guy because he's always fucking eating, I think Dustin Stoltzfus for the fight game is the hungrier of the two. He's not a guy who's quit. He's been knocked out before. He's been finished before. But you see the skill set. You see that he has a decent chin. You see that he has power in his punches. You see that he has good submission ability and grappling. But when it comes down to it, if Kelvin, this is at 185, if Kelvin is, working his head movement and his boxing, he should be able to land significantly on Dustin. Maybe not finish him, but win this one by decision. Now, he has to show that he can stuff these takedowns, because that's what Dustin is going to shoot. He's 100% going to shoot. But yeah, man, him getting dropped by Pyfer multiple times was a bit of a good and a bad look. He was able to eat those shots, come back and win round number 3. But man, he's getting dropped, and it's looking more and more like that iron chin is going to eventually get just worn out. So if Dustin comes out here and lands one hard shot and finishes Kelvin, I'm not going to be surprised at all. I like Dustin maybe if he is getting these takedowns, maybe going with that live bet at that point. If he's winning the round, probably drop down to at least even money. But yeah, give me Gastelum. I think he should win this one by decision if he shows up. Next bout, we've got Jared Gordon versus Rafa Garcia. This one's more intriguing to me. And the only reason I'm going to go with Rafa at the plus odds is that this is going to be in Texas. Texas is notorious for having questionable judging. And Gordon, at this point, I think he's the better fighter. I think he's probably always going to be the better fighter compared to Garcia. I think his grappling's solid. I think at this point his career, more or less resurgence, is at an all-time high. And he's got some momentum on his side, considering the fact that, people say that he beat Patty, and, he's been finishing dudes more so lately. But I think with the activity of Garcia and the wrestling ability that he can maybe eat some time away against the cage, it could favor him, and he can end up winning a pretty controversial decision. So for that reason, despite the fact that I think that maybe visually Gordon should win this fight, and most people will even probably have it 30-27 Gordon, I think the activity and the Mexicanness of Garcia is going to play a good factor here, and they might end up just giving the fight to Garcia. So that's the only reason I'm picking him. Next up, we've got Rob Font versus David Martinez, and I'm on the Martinez side here. The plus money on Martinez I think is solid. Look, man, I know Rob Font is visually looking like he's having a career resurgence, but I don't think he won his last fight against Matsumoto. We know what he brings to the table, and I think David is a smart guy. I think he has a good fight IQ. He's a younger, more explosive guy. He hits hard. His sister, I think, recently got released, so probably good riddance to her. But David is legit, and can I see him losing this fight? Of course. I think volume-wise, Rob Font has a lot of volume, throws a lot of jabs, and if David isn't quite mentally there, he might get caught up against the cage, and maybe a couple punches will come his way. But I think David is just peak right now. I think he should be the favorite. Out of respect, I think a lot of people are on Rob Font for that reason. Him beating John Matsumoto is a good look on paper. But I do think that if David clips Rob Font, he he has that kind of ability to, similar like the Cheeto Vera fight. Cheeto was losing on numbers, but he would hit Rob Font, and that entire sequence of, like, say 300 punches that he landed in that fight didn't mean shit because he's the one on the ground and like surviving. So if David is smart, I think he can have that game plan plus some whiff on his side, meaning that Rob will be throwing volume but maybe not landing because of that good footwork that Martinez has. So give me Martinez by a decision or possibly finish. It just depends on how aggressive Martinez wants to be. And then main event here, man, to me, I've been going back and forth because I do value the Lopes side. I think with all the experience on his side, a lot of negativity coming in from the fighting nerds. A lot of people are shitting on John Silva for shit outside of his actual fighting ability, but he's nearly 3-1 against Diego Lopes, a guy who just fought for the title. The thing about Lopes is that we know how to beat him. Just no one has been able to implement that kind of style as of late. I know Evloev was able to do it, but he's a grappler. And, don't count out Diego's striking ability, but if this is primarily a striking matchup, it's going to favor John Silva. His creativity, his power, he hits harder than most people in this weight class. And if he wins this fight, he will more than likely be next for the title. And why I'm picking John Silva, not because I'm trying to sell his merch, which should be coming out soon, by the way. Probably less valuable now than it was a few weeks ago because the other two nerds lost. But look, man, I think this should be an honest-to-goodness like striking matchup. I think if Lopes does try to go for some takedowns, it would benefit him because on the mat, he's solid. But I've seen the man gassed out previously in prior fights. Like Joe Anderson Burrito was able to just dominate him, and that's a similar type of phenotype like John Silva. The catalyst, the difference maker is John Silva's creativity and the wild and recklessness sometimes. Like this guy will throw some shit and some nasty elbows. And what's giving me this thought keeps occurring in my head with this fight is that, Diego's got a good chin, but he could get stopped with a possible elbow via like a cut via elbow. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Not to say that I'm like, oh, that's going to happen. I think it's a pretty high probability that it could. John can come in here and just knock him the fuck out early. It's just that if this is the fight I think it's going to be, which is just two guys scrapping and like they're earning each other's respect, essentially, that kind of a fight, I think John can land more damaging shots that will get him that victory. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Noche. Very interesting overall, man. Like it's in San Antonio. It was going to be in Mexico City. I think that benefits a lot of the fighters. They don't have to go and fight in elevation. So this should be more of a standard fight. we'll see how the judging goes. But yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, Johnny Tigerbomb. I will see you next week. Healthy.